Hey, Bulelani Balabala here. Welcome to the Small Business Podcast. We bring you weekly information, practical skills, and mentorship from industry professionals. This podcast is powered by T, an initiative that has directly impacted over 50,000 plus small businesses nationwide. This podcast is for small business owners who want to start, run, and grow their business. Follow us on all our social media platforms. #JoinUs4T. Every Wednesday is a new podcast. Episode 35, man. Thank you guys for joining us. And I think if you're 35 in South Africa, this would mean the end of your youth. You know, the last 12 months of your youth. But more than that, thank you so much for joining the Small Business Podcast. I mean, we've got an amazing, super inspirational gentleman, you know, who's in studio. A super inspiration for me. You know, you've done so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, this guy has done so much.
Thank you, brother.
Yo, but like, let me not lose track. I've got an amazing entrepreneur, super seasoned entrepreneur and disruptor in multi-industries over the years who's done exceptionally well. Madoda, Khuzwayo, you know, for the primary view of today's chat, you know, who's the head at App2. You know, it's just going to be taking us through his entrepreneurial journey, bro. Maybe, you know, before I even overhype, you know, because
Sure.
you deserve it, and heavens amount way more than that, right?
Appreciate
just
it.
take me through Banu Madoda, where you from,
Yeah.
so that we start to nitpick at this amazing journey, man.
No, cool, man. Thanks for having me, brother. Hey, it's been a while. So Madoda Khuzwayo, I was born in KZN, and I moved to Joburg when I was 13 to do my high school, and that's where my journey began. You know, I come from a small village, you know, in Tambanana. And growing up back then, I mean, we had nothing in the village, you know, no electricity, no running water. You wake up and look after your father's cows, you know. And the first time I actually got out of the village, that's when I was coming to Joburg, you know, which was amazing. You're seeing lights and streets for the first time and buildings for the first time. And I was like, wow, the world is so big. And I think from that point onwards, you know, I just always had a desire, you know, just to go out and do great things, you know. So I did my high school here in Mutlakenge Township, actually, and then finished matric. So when I finished matric, I actually was one of those kids, you know, like, it just I guess it's a blessing and discipline as well. I studied very well, you know, one of those kids who get their results before they even come out, because you're going to be in the paper. So I was one of the best students in the West Rand, you know, for matric, you know, straight A's in mathematics, you know, and from there, I got a bursary from Eskom, you know, and I got a story about the bursary from Eskom, which a lot of young people, you know, need to hear about this. I think back then, they used to have like closing dates, you know, like 30 June, you know, you should have applied, you know, and then that's the closing date. So I applied on time and sent my application through, and I never heard from them, okay? And then my results come, it's January the following year. You know, I got these amazing results. I've been on the paper, even the mayor, you know, had a function for us, you know, gave me a pen.
Writing the future.
Exactly. And I took my results because my dad had already told me, Uguti, aganamali. You know, so I just need to find a way. And I took my results. I was living in Rodiport at the time. I've never been to Megawatt Park, ever in my life, you know. So I asked money from my dad for taxi, and I went to Megawatt Park. I went to the reception and said, look, I applied for a bursary, guys.
Megawatt Park, this is what we here in
Eskom.
Woodmead.
Yeah.
All the way.
Yeah, the head office, yeah. All the way from Rodiport, yeah. Took a taxi, I brief from Bring, Abuzi, Sunning Hill, you know, Sunning Hill, I figure, you know, and I went to reception. No appointment, nothing, bruh. True story. And at the reception, like, do you have an appointment? No, I don't have. But here are my results. It's like, no, but you need to set up an appointment. Like, no, just call HR. I applied. I just want to find out whether they received my application or if they can do something about it. You know, and I mean, you're 18 at the time. And they were like, okay, let me try. And then they called this lady. I still remember her name. It was Umpomgun, you know, who was head of HR at Eskom at the time. And she was shocked as well. I was like, what? Who are you? And I was like, no, Sissy, I applied. But I didn't get any respond. And and I've applied Val University of Technology. It was Valtech at the time. And Gnasi Spacey. So I just want to know if you can do something about it. And she looked at me and she's like, tell you what, I've got all the application forms that I received for this year in my office. Come up. And she opens up a big storeroom, like boxes and boxes of applications. And she says, if you can find your application here, I'll give you a bursary.
What?
Swear to God. And I was digging in. I think it was around about 4:30, bruh, before she knocks off. And I found it.
Wow.
And that's how I got a bursary for ESCOM.
Oh, wow.
And then I went to do electrical engineering in Val University of Technology. And
But now, before, sorry to interject, right? But take me through, but what was going through your head at the time? That chutzpah, that encouragement, that drive to say, Ngiya ESCOM, I've got no appointment, angazi muntu, but I'm going.
I think it's the upbringing. I lost my mother when I was 8 years old. And I was raised by my grandmother with 2 sisters. And now if you're growing up in a Zulu culture, in the village, by that time you're told you are the man. You have to make things happen. And that's how life has been since I was 8. If I want something, I just have to make it happen. But also, I think growing up in the village as well helped for me. We're growing up like we were fighting every day, unnecessarily. So you have no fear whatsoever.
Yeah.
There's no fear in me. What's the worst that could happen? You can say no. And then all I lost was 30 rand for transport. So, but I will never know unless I actually go there. And that's been the attitude, just generally if I want something, I just go for it.
And I mean, I like that, right? So here you, wow, that's crazy, right? And I think that's much then to be said about, success favors the brave.
Yes.
Because here you were, and by pure virtue of the fact that you were willing to show up.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you were given a task, and at this mountain of a task with applications everywhere, thousands and thousands of applications, you were determined enough to say, I'm gonna find mine.
Yeah. I think life, as I grow, I've tend to, accept and believe that life is just about that. You have to do your part, and do your part efficiently. Do your part and do it in an efficient manner. I applied on time. Okay?
Yeah.
So my application was there.
Yeah.
And when you've done your part, it doesn't necessarily mean that then it's over. You don't relax. You still gotta push and knock on those doors and kick them open if you have to. And I think that's just the way life is, bro. Eh?
So here you are, you get this bursary, you go study at Valtech at the time, electrical engineering.
Yes.
And then
now, here's an exciting part. So I get to Val, okay? And for the first time in my life, so the first semester of all engineering courses, whether you're doing electrical, mechanical, IT, it doesn't really matter. The first semester is really the same. You're doing the basics, your computer skills, your communication skills, etc., etc. So I go to a computer class. For the first time in my life, I touch a keyboard.
wow.
When I go to tertiary. I mean, in the village, we didn't have computers back then, When I went to township, my school, we didn't have computers. I'd never placed my hands on a keyboard at all. Only when I got to Valtech.
Sure.
And I remember it was a spiritual moment, as I call it. So there's a screen in front of me. There's a keyboard in front of me. And they say, okay, first task, we're going to write our name. You've never seen a QWERTY keyboard. You expect it to be A, B, C, D, E, F, follows. And, I'm looking for an M on the keyboard so I can write Madoda. Hey, you look, hey, wait. And eventually I see it. Bang! M. M appears on the keyboard. On the screen. I call it love at first touch. I think for the first time, I actually felt the power to create. I felt that if I press an M on the keyboard, I get an M on the screen. That's power, bruh. That's power, bruh. And I can do anything with my hands. And I then fell in love with IT. And I went back to the same lady that gave me a bursary. Say, can I change into IT? No, first semester, like, no, guys, can I change? I actually decided I want to do IT. It was like, nope. Madoda, you can't. You. No, not you, okay. You can't. No, we are ESCOM, we're looking for electrical engineering. Engineers. Yeah, then I did the whole, 3-year course, graduated, record time, and they gave me a job. And I refused. And I was like, no, I said I wanted to do IT, so I prefer to go back to school. Because again, I had, when you've decided, and I felt like I was young, and I got a whole life ahead of me, why do something that I actually don't like? And at that time, I think engineering as well, electrical for me was not exciting. There were no, green economy, there were no renewable energy, there was nothing. I just imagined myself climbing a pole and fixing something, I was like, that's not me. I just saw myself in a blue overall, with a white van. I'm like, nah.
Definitely not gonna be me.
I don't know. I didn't know anything about tenders at the time. I didn't see. I didn't see it properly. I didn't see it properly. So I decided that I was gonna go back to school, and I asked if they can release me, and they agreed. And it was just a mutual discussion, like, guys, I cannot do it. I want to go back to school. If you can't sponsor me, I'll find a way. So they refused to sponsor me to go back to school, and I decided to relocate and go overseas.
No, that's way too easy. like, take us through that journey.
So the process is, back in the days, there used to be something called Holiday Maker Visa, which is the Commonwealth visa. So you could take a working holiday and go to the UK and study and work for 2 years. So it was almost like a gap year sort of program that England has, or the United Kingdom has, for Commonwealth citizens. They cancelled that visa, a couple of years back after a couple of scams, people coming to South Africa and then going to the UK through that visa. So I took that 2 year, and I already knew about it, and I decided, what, I'm just gonna go and get my passport, take a 2-year visa, raise the money. And there were agencies back then that actually just specialized on this, almost like recruitment agencies. So they will recruit the youth, and then you go and work in the UK, and you can also obviously can study as well. And you do anything, any odd jobs. It was literally just odd jobs, nothing fancy. So I sold everything that I had. Techniques and components.
Yes,
I was like,
with the two big
you remember that one? Yeah, Nama City, about your celebration. I sold everything, sneakers, Obviously, I had a bursary for 3 years, so you have all the, cool things.
Collecting stuff, yeah.
Exactly, we've collected stuff. And I sold everything, and I think I raised about 14,000, and the ticket was 7,500. And I needed to raise another 20,000 as pocket money, which I borrowed from friends. That's like, the rand is the dollar, the rand was 1 to 10 to a pound. Sorry, at the time, guys, I'll sort you out, and that's how, and I left, bro.
Sure. And how did you always have the sense of confidence in you? Or is it something that you sort of feel like you've had to build, right? Being someone, as you say, you grew up in the village and then was in the township. And then now here you are, right? Globe charting, and you've consistently been doing that. Is it something that you've had to build for yourself? Or do you feel like because of the upbringing, you've always had this, I'm going to push, I'm going to make this thing happen?
That's it. I think I did fall in love with, when I left the village, and saw Joburg for the first time, I got excited, about the world. I got excited about the world, that there's more to see. Ever since, it's just been that thing that's out in there, I have to go. I have to go. I never stay in one place for more than 2 years, ever since.
Sure.
Actually, 2 years is long, Average, I stay in a place is like a year. And then I move. Even when I'm in Joburg, I never stay in one house for that long. I move suburbs. all the time.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just something that's always been there. But I travel a lot as well, you know. So obviously with COVID and everything,
Yeah.
you know. So
With those limitations. But now tell me, where now does this entrepreneurial bug bite? Because you've also done a lot in the entrepreneurial space.
yes, I'll tell you where it started. So now I'm in the UK. So I arrived in the UK, you know, and I had some plans. You know, I decided, you know what? Some girl told me I'm handsome, so I'm going to try modeling. So I'm going to try that when I get there and see how far it takes me. But when I arrived, I thought I was going to London. You know, it was a funny story. When I arrived, I thought I was going to London, and I was going to some small town called Hall Beach, somewhere in the Midlands, you know, like literally like 4 hours away by train, you know, from London. And I thought I was going to London because when I went to the embassy, I picked up the map. That was before Google Maps. I picked up the map of the city, and I was looking for a street of the address where they said I'm going to work. I was like, oh, I found the street, and it's by King's Cross in London. And when I arrived, and I found out like I still have to take a train, and it's
Another 4 hours.
Yeah, 3.5 hours away. I was so disappointed, you know. But I went anyway. So I worked, like, did some odd jobs. I mean, my first job was picking potatoes in a farm. You know, and it was fun. And I worked there for 4 weeks. And I met some 2 guys from KZN and Mlazi who've been working there for quite some time, you know. And I'm actually I was like, guys, why are you here? Have you been to London? I was like, no. You know, after 2 weeks, I'm like, guys, I'll go to London. You know, I'm gonna take 1 day off and then take a bus and go to London. So I did, and I found another job there, you know, security at Marks and Spencer, which is like Woolworths, you know, within 2 I was doing that job. And the third job was in retail. There's a shop called the Gadget Shop on Oxford Street, you know, so I'm moving up, you know. Like, And I worked there, but I couldn't speak proper English as well, you know, so I was just doing odd jobs like that does not require you to speak to anyone, you know, like packing stuff, you know, in the shelves, and that's it. And it was getting cold. You know, first winter. Ice on the street. I'm from KZN, bro. So I was speaking to this other South African guy, and it's like, bro, how do you survive? You know, it's from Pretoria. It's like, my first job, I worked in a hotel. You eat there, you live there, you work there, you never see winter. You know, so then I'm like, yeah, I'm going to apply for a job in a hotel. So I applied. I picked up, there's a magazine called TNT, or there was a magazine called TNT magazine, which is like for South Africans, Australians, and New Zealand, you know, like, so it's like Gumtree. So you find all the jobs there. So I picked up that magazine and applied for a job. I think it was Oxford, it was Oxford, it was Southampton, I can't remember the other city. And I took Oxford, you know, for no reason other than I just know there's an Oxford dictionary. That was when I was like, okay, I'm going to pick Oxford because I know there's a university, because I wanted to study, you know. And I then moved, I think it was like after 3 months now, you know, then I moved to Oxford. And when I arrived, the day I arrived in Oxford, the bus stop to my hotel, behind me, there was a recruitment agency called Manpower. And they had advertised a job looking for engineers. This is funny how the universe works. And BMW had just bought a plant from Rover to start the production of the Mini Cooper in Oxford, and they were looking for engineers. So I go in there, I'm like, guys, I've got an electrical engineering qualification. Can I apply? They're like, yeah. Which country? South Africa. I was like, okay, do you have 10 minutes for an aptitude test? I'm like, yep. And I did that, and I got it right, and I was like, yeah, you have a job. Before I could even get to the hotel.
What?
I swear. And I started working in a hotel while then doing weekend at BMW until I could find my accommodation, you know, and then I moved. And I started working at BMW, and then that was actually a good life and a good salary, and I worked there for 3 years. And I raised enough money to take myself back to school. And the good thing about it was you could work 3 days in a week because our visa didn't allow us to work full time. So you could only work 3 days. So I was working Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then Monday to Sunday, I was going to school full time. You know, and I then did my e-commerce, you know, a diploma in information systems. And I graduated from that. And I wanted to write my exams, and that's where the entrepreneurial thing starts. I wanted to write my exams, but it was too, like your IT exams,
yeah,
MCSE and all of those things.
yeah.
So it was too expensive to pay that in pounds because the exams are the same globally, like your Microsoft exams are the same everywhere. I decided I'm going to go to India to go and write that because the rupee was much cheaper, and it's the same exam. So I went to India. It's when I got to India. First thing, one of my friends bought me a book, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, to read on a plane on my way to India. By the time I got to India, I finished that book on a plane. By the time I got, I'm like, no way, I'm going in the wrong direction. This is not the right way, And I got to India, and it was at the height of call center outsourcing at the time. Every young kid in my class had a dream of starting a call center. And by the time I got back, by the time I finished with my exams and everything, which was 3 months later, I was like, nope, I'm not doing this work thing. I'm actually going to start a company. And that's where I started. I resigned from BMW. I started a company designing websites and e-commerce platforms. And that's what I've been doing ever since, actually, if you think about it, just in different formats.
Yeah. But now just what, what has driven your creative prowess? Because, I sort of look at you and what you've done. You're a super creative individual, right?
Yes.
In your ability to create products and create solutions for, the ordinary, everyday life challenges, Where does that come from? And how do you consistently decide this is an idea I'll work on, this is the one I won't work on at all?
I didn't know. I think that's why I've done so many things, I've always looking for that one thing that combines all my passions, and I didn't know which one it is. And that's just the other downside of being too creative, because you just got so many things in your head and you can't actually sort of like pinpoint which one I should be doing. And I remember I had a session with Elon Reyes, from Reyes Corp, and I was struggling with exactly that, saying I'm doing too many things. And I actually don't know which one to focus on. And he said to me, Madoda, you have to pick one. I don't care, just pick one, whichever you pick, and just make that work, because you find that you are actually growing. But growing like 10 centimeters in 10 directions doesn't really help, rather go 1 meter in one direction, then you can actually see what you're doing. But at that time, I'd done so many things, but all of them within one category, if you think about it, it's always been e-commerce, which is what I'm passionate about. I mean, even the business I'm doing now is actually an e-commerce platform, if you actually think about it.
Yeah.
So I've always built e-commerce platforms, but in different verticals and in different markets, I always, I think it's failure. I've always created businesses and gave them a timeline.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I created businesses because I'm trying to achieve something. And if that business does not live up to my expectation, then I shouldn't actually be focusing on it.
Oh, wow.
And some people call it failure, but I actually don't think it is failure. If I start something and I'm not sure if it's going to work and I'm trying to make it work and I've got goals on it that this business should be making so much turnover, by this time. If it doesn't, then there's something wrong. Either with me or the industry that I have chosen.
Yeah.
And that's why I've moved from one business to the other because I was trying to find that one thing, that I think I could actually focus on, for the next 10, 15 years and something that I can create a legacy on. I think that's how I've always created. It's always been a search.
Yeah. But I mean, tell me about App 2, because I think App 2 is so disruptive, right?
It's exciting. It's exciting.
I think before we even started with the interview, guys, I was just mentioning to my daughter that, I've heard of dark kitchens.
Dark kitchens, yes.
I don't think I've ever heard of any other thing, maybe because of my limited exposure and knowledge. And here you are disrupting. Tell us a bit about App 2. What is App 2? How are you guys disrupting?
So how it started actually is because around 2016, so I was approached by Remy Martin, the cognac brand. They had a campaign at that time called One Life Leave Them. And they said to me, Madoda, we've been following you, the work that you're doing, we think it'll be good, for our brand, for this campaign. I was like, oh, okay. And we ended up partnering, and I did that campaign for about 3 years. And I got exposed to the liquor industry through that campaign. You know? And end of 2018, I then decided that I'm actually going to go into the liquor space, but with e-commerce. And that's where App2 started. I started working on it in 2019. And the goal was to create a liquor delivery platform, but not just liquor delivery platform, generally a shopping delivery platform, but starting with liquor. And there's two ways in which you could do it. You could do it in a third-party delivery model like the other platforms like your Mr. D's and Uber will do, where they actually deliver from other people's stores.
Party, yeah.
Or, as in our case, we create our own stores, which is physical locations in the suburbs where we want to deliver, and we license those, and we then deliver, within that suburb. And our first store is in Sandton City. So it is a physical store that is properly licensed, just like any other liquor store. But the aim is to do liquor delivery within a 20-kilometer radius, of Sandton City.
And I think
that's
when I
how
was,
it's done.
and sorry about if I cut you off there, and I think what I loved when I was reading is, and I think that's the thing that boggled me. It's in Sandton City.
Yes.
But it's not for walk-in consumers.
Well, that's another thing about business. So when we started, the idea was to do 100% click and collect, service. And this was during COVID. When I was building this, at the height of COVID, when liquor was not even sold, that's when I was working on the idea. But when we opened, we realized that the majority of customers still prefer, and this is what happens, guys coming into the shop, they want to go in and see how it looks like. Then once they've seen, then they then go into the app.
Oh.
So then I said to the guys, you know what? It is good because we're in the mall. And we can actually open the store for walk-ins, so customers can actually interact with us, see how it looks. They can buy, and they can do anything. But now if you live in Morningside, look, I don't have to actually drive into the mall for a bottle of wine anymore, But I find that there's trust because you've met Madoda, you've met, Busani there, you've spoken to them, you can see the range that they have, it's almost like you feel confident that actually this is, they can deliver. As opposed to, and that's just what I've seen, and you start this idea with, I'm going to go 100% online, and I just found that in the beginning it didn't work. I mean, first day we made 100 rand, Sold an Amstel lager. Ken.
Shout out
for
to
the whole
Amstel.
day. Shout out to Amstel. For the whole day, bro. And it was so exciting, when we sold that Amstel. It was so exciting. I actually kept the 100 rand and I even signed it. I'll keep it for generations to come, and frame it and put it out there. And Bulelani, I tell you, me and you, we've done a couple of things. I've done businesses that are difficult before. And this is probably the easiest business I've ever done where I don't have to convince people about the product.
The product is what it is.
The product is what it is, Remy it is, Hennessy it is what it is, Don Julio it is what it is. You just have to create a service so good, that they want to buy from you. Doesn't get better than that, but that's one part. And this is just my own learning after having done business for 12 years. For the first time, I'm doing a business where we make money every day without writing a proposal.
And it's not, in actual fact, it's not periodic, it's not waiting for, management, the HR director, the CSI, the
CSD, registration, tax clearance,
it's
PE
it's a
certificate,
goal.
etc. I'm not there right now. I'm not there. But Mangbuya, guys have made 1,000 rand. It doesn't matter how much it is, but it's money every day. And I think that's what we're missing, especially in our communities. We grew up with spaza shops. In townships, but we let that market disappear. If you go into the mall right now, pretty much every shop there, there's someone who owns it and he's not even there, but he's making money every day. And this is families and it's something that you can leave for your children. The longest tenant in Sandton City, I think, is about, 80 years in there. The Walnut Grove, there's a restaurant there called the Walnut Grove.
I love
they were
Walnut Grove.
one of the first tenants for Sandton City is now in the third generation.
What?
Exactly. I'm like, why are we not in this industry? Why are we not in retail? So I'm learning so much, as an entrepreneur, and I just feel like I just started. I just started, and it's exciting, and it's one of those businesses that I think we can grow, we can scale. There's nothing that's stopping us from having 1,000 outlets, in the next 5 years.
Definitely not, because it's replicable.
No, it's actually copy-paste.
Yeah. But now tell me this then, Madoda. In your 12-year entrepreneurial journey, is there a singular piece of advice or book you read or quotation or someone you spoke to that disrupted how you think and you've carried that message with you? And if it is, what was that message that's kept you in the game, that's kept you inspired, as tough as it is, with the ups, the downs, the failures, the wins, the successes and the losses?
Keep it simple. It's called KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
That's it. KISS.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Oh, wow.
That's what it's called. Look, just life is not that difficult. We complicate it. Everything. Just keep it simple. And this is what I'm learning now. What I've struggled with, in the past is creating complex things, man. When the day I learned to simplify my life and just keep things as simple. If the way to think about a tennis player like Serena Williams, or whoever. What do they do every day?
The same thing.
Same thing. They wake up and train, and
there's
no new way of hitting that ball, of swinging.
Just...
No, there is no new way. It's waking up and doing the basic things well. Consistency over time produces results.
Sure. And that's crazy, right? I think what you're touching on, and I think it's such pivotal information, I think, if you're watching and listening to this podcast, because it talks to focus.
It's focus.
Macro focus on the target.
What do big companies do? Pick and Pay sells Lucky Star, bro, like every day. They just sell Ace Milli every day. And it's the same thing every day. Pick the shelves. And get the product out. Pick the shelves. Get the product out. Pick the shelves. Get the product out. And that's it.
But the thing about, I think also being such an amazing inspiration is, and also I think as you speak, right, I think from the moment we started, the energy has been high, but you're so resolute and very clear about where you are, what you're going to do, but also just over and above that, about the fact that whatever challenge that comes, it's not a setup for my downfall. I'm going to make it work.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now,
yes.
To majority of individuals or someone out there is listening to this, they're battling with that, right? How do you deal with failure or a no? How do you get to the point where, you say, I've been dealt this big blow. It's going to set me back or pause me a little bit, but because I think in a world where we attach so much of our being on material things, on the fact that I've won so many awards, now I must go back to driving a Taz. I've sat and ate dinners with, I don't know, maybe presidents, now I must go and move back home, emakaya, and then ngidle kota, and then you're losing inkomo, but I was this amazing person. How then do you manage that? Because, for me, sometimes I look at entrepreneurship and I feel like, it's like deciding to swallow crash bottles, because it's the most insane career choice you can always make, but also the most rewarding and most fulfilling.
Exactly. But we were also just taught wrong information. We look at people that are already. Actually, I've got a saying. I read this in a book somewhere. I can't remember which book. That if you wanted to be rich, you must actually. Most advisors look at rich people and see how they live and then replicate that, and that's actually wrong. You must find out what they did that made them rich and how they lived before they were rich. And none of them were in fancy cars. None of them were in flashy, attire. Jeff Bezos drove that Honda, for years when Amazon was already making, millions. You know, you want to drive a Range Rover today because you believe that you need to impress someone before they actually give you a gig. I think that's where this whole thing comes from, where we attach who we are on the material things, you know. So I'm not Madoda, the persona, the person that I am, but I'm Madoda with BMW. And ekasi kunjalo. Have you ever seen how we even define people? Look, Madoda, no BMW.
Yeah.
It's like we always attach, you know,
material things as labels to describe.
Exactly. I think that's where it comes from. But again, if you can master the art of simplifying your life, you know, my journey is my journey. You know, it's not a competition against anyone. And it's very spiritual as well. The whole art of creation is very spiritual because life is like a mirror. You know, whatever you project on it, that's what you get back. You know, that's how the universe works. And the other thing, I think the other mistake that we make generally as human beings is actually believing that life is supposed to go a certain way. You know, dealing with no's and yes. Who says if I call you, you must answer or you are going to answer? And if you don't answer, I'm disappointed. So it's wrong expectations that create disappointments. Nobody said life's going to be simple. Nobody said every pitch that you send out, you know, someone's going to say yes to it, you know, and it has nothing to do with you. Generally, it might just not be the right time. You might not be the right person. You know, there might not be any budget for that. You know, there are many valid reasons why people say no to you. But you can't consider that failure. There are many valid reasons why things fail. But you cannot adopt that as personal failure. Let me give you an example. One of the platforms that was very popular that we ran in from 2012 to 2014 was called Open Tenders. Now, this was before, and I created that. This was before CSD, okay? And then by 2015, government decided that they're going to launch the Central Supplier Database and etenders.gov.za because government was spending a lot of money, you know, advertising tenders on papers and the likes. And it is the way to save taxpayers' money, you know, when they can actually put that on their platform. And that was legit. But it disrupted us because we were making our money from advertising tenders. So now if the new procurement bill says government cannot longer pay for tenders, now do I then consider myself to having, you know, failed? No, it was just the time. That's one part. But businesses are no different from human beings. Nothing is meant to live forever.
Yeah, man, But now tell me this, you know, second last question or third last question quickly before we wrap up. Then when is there such a thing as the right time or signs that pick out and show you this is the right time to let go of this business? You've been here too long. It's stifling your growth. Because sometimes we become very sentimental with things that we've built up as entrepreneurs, you know.
Yeah.
How have you managed
Because we get attached to it.
You get attached.
Yeah, get attached to that. You know, I'm not attached to businesses. I'm not attached to any material things. I'm just attached to the goal.
Sure. I like that.
I could get to that goal through App2. I could get to that goal by partnering with you if App2 doesn't work, you know. But at the end of the day, I'm attached to the goal. For me, I mean, it's different goals for different people. But for me, it's always been three things, you know: financial freedom, time freedom, you know, and location freedom. I always wanted to live anywhere and wake up whenever I want to wake up and do the things that actually moves my soul. If I can achieve that, you know, through this entity, then I am successful. As far as my definition of success is concerned.
Yeah.
And if I can be content with that, you know, then
that's all that
I'm
matters.
happy. And I had to actually transition, you know, mentally. In the beginning, when I started business, you know, it was always about like, you know, you want to make millions, you know, you want to make billions, you want to do that, you know, and that's okay. And you should. You know, money is like oxygen in business.
Keeps you alive.
You see, you don't wake up. Oxygen keeps you alive. And without it, nothing matters. Your dreams, your goals, your ambitions, whatever it is, nothing matters unless you're breathing.
That's true.
All right? But you don't wake up. I've never met someone and say, my goal is to actually breathe. Today, similar to business, money, cash flow is like oxygen. But why is it our goal? You understand? So business should exist beyond just making money.
Man, I like that. Damn, I like that. I like that. Well, as we wrap it up. Wow,
Yeah,
sure. Man, I need to have your tea. This guy. But as we wrap up, man, Madoda, what would your inspirational, affirming direction, whatever's in your heart to a young small business, who's watching this,
Yes.
who's trying to navigate, and whether the path seems clear or not, what would you say to them?
Just do it. Do it and do it now. Just start. Just go for it. But also just learn to let go. Sometimes, and in most cases, your perspective and what you can see changes as you start moving.
Sure, that's true.
All right. So if we start moving and then we now over there, we might find that things look different from when we were here.
That's right.
Some businesses, some of the things that you're doing in life, whether that's your career, your business, and all of that stuff, is meant to actually put you in a certain place where you can see differently. So getting attached to that, is actually what keeps people back. Okay. In careers like employment, people do this very well. I've never heard someone moving jobs and then we're saying he or she's failing. Yeah, today you work for this company, tomorrow you work for that one, because you're moving up, but you're spiraling up.
In different industries.
In different industries,
positions,
exactly, because
exposure.
the way up is not a straight line. But business is exactly that. I started this business and then I moved to that one, 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 but I'm actually growing.
Man, thanks you for joining Madoda's masterclass. I'm going to hijack this guy to come to tea. Look out for him as we start our roadshow. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure, brother.
You are amazing. You know what I love is I've learned so much.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to take you out now to learn some more. But thank you guys for watching episode 35, Small Business Podcast. See you guys next week. Have a beautiful, productive week. That's it for today. If you like that podcast, show us some love and share it with your network. Once again, follow us on all of our social media platforms, #JoinUsForTea, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Shout out to Joe Public for making this possible. Remember, Sisonke Rikaufela and Foster Njengomzegezege.